Welcome to another episode of Grow Deep with Miss Erica. This week, Miss Erica is dressed like a penguin! All right, let's get started. This week, be sure to read Genesis 17 together as a family. Mom and Dad, you can find fun, creative activities and ideas to explore Genesis 17 more in our parent email. That comes out every Monday, so be sure to open it and do those activities as a family. They're really fun. Jenny Rowe has been writing them, and they're awesome. When we're looking at our Big Bible timeline, you'll notice that we're still exploring the life of Abraham. This week, as we dive into Genesis 17, I want to tell you guys what happens in Genesis 16. We're not going to cover it in God's garden or in one of these videos, but it is important to look at because something very important happens. God has been showing up and speaking to Abraham for 11 years now. And every time God shows up, he reminds Abraham of his promise and his plan to rescue and bless Abraham's family. He promises to give him a huge family, tons and tons of kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. And God promises to bless and rescue all families on the whole earth, even yours, by blessing and rescuing Abraham's family. But at this point in Abraham's life, he still doesn't even have one kid. He has been waiting and waiting for 11 years for God to show up and do what God said and promised he would do. But finally, Abraham just stops waiting. And him and Sarah come up with their own plan to make God's plan happen. They don't have any kids, and they really, really want one. So Sarah takes her Egyptian slave Hagar and gives her to Abraham. And together they have a son named Ishmael. This is Abraham and Sarah choosing out of God's best. Ishmael is the result of their sinful plan. This is so important in the story that we're looking at today from Genesis 17. When we look at this story on a map, we see that Abraham is still living by these oak trees that were owned by his friend Mamre. In Genesis 17, God shows up to speak to Abraham again. This is 13 years after Ishmael is born. And God reminds Abraham how important it is to follow him and obey him. And God asks Abraham to have a special sign for his family that would make them different from all the other families on the earth. Because remember, God is going to use this one family to rescue and bless all other families. God is in a covenant, a relationship with Abraham. And so he wants Abraham to be obeying him and choosing into that special relationship. And God knows that Abraham hasn't always been doing that. So God is showing up to remind Abraham to obey him and follow him. And then God reminds Abraham that he is still going to keep his promise. He is still going to give him a son and a huge family. I got my friend Lydia to read to us from Genesis 17. Shout out to her sister Cece who recorded this video. Take it away, girls. This is the conversation between God and Abraham.
And God said to Abraham, as for Sarah, your wife shall not call her name Sarah, and from Milvor I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of people shall come for her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said to himself, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who 99 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, "Oh, is Ishmael might live before I bury you a son, and you shall be his name. I will be equal by contact with as and convent for his offering after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him. Will you make fruitful and multiply his greatly, and he shall father 12 princes. I will make him into a great nation, but I will establish my covenant with Isaac. Whom Sarah shall be bare to you at this time next year.
Thanks, girls. God is saying here that he will do something impossible. God is promising to give a son, a baby, to a man who's 99 years old, and his wife is 90. Guys, this is impossible. Super old people can't have babies. But God is promising to do the impossible. He's promising to do something miraculous. But Abraham isn't ready or willing to believe that God will do what he says he will do. And so Abraham says, can you just bless Ishmael? Can you just bless my plan? My way that I chose out of your best? Can you just make that better? Because I don't believe that you can do what you said you will do. But God responds that he will do what he says. God will do the impossible. God will do the miraculous. God says, I will do what I promised. I will show up and give you a son in 1 year. What is your response when God shows up and wants to talk to you about his plans and his promises for your life? Did you guys know that God has plans for your life? Big, impossible, miraculous plans that only God can do in you and through you. God has plans to use you in big ways in your school, in your neighborhood, at work, in your families. And God is promising to do these things through you. And he promises to give you his Holy Spirit to help you do things that otherwise would be impossible or miraculous. But sometimes we don't want to wait on God and on his impossible plans for us. So we come up with our own plans. We choose out of God's best. We are impatient and we scheme up our own plans. But God is still in relationship with us. He still wants to speak to us every day. God is faithful even when we are not. And then when God shows up and wants to speak to us again about his good plans, we do exactly what Abraham does. We say, hey, God, can you just bless my plan? I know it's not your best. It's not your awesome plan. It's not miraculous or what you have for me, but I came up with it myself. Could you just bless that instead? This week, waddle over to find some crayons and paper for everyone in your family. Have everyone draw a treasure map. You can get really creative with where your treasure map takes place. Maybe it takes place in a dark, creepy jungle. Or maybe it takes place in Antarctica. Or maybe it takes place on the moon. Draw you on the map somewhere. And then draw a very clear path from you to the treasure chest. While you're coloring, talk together as a family about ways that you have chosen out of God's clear path for your life. What are ways that you have disobeyed God or walked away from his good plan for you? What are ways you've schemed up your own plan and then asked God to just bless that instead. Talk together about one thing you can do to choose back in to God's clear plan for your life. Remember, God is committed to being in relationship with us, even when we choose out of his best. He's always ready to come back and talk to us again about ways that we can choose back in to his good plans. Thanks for watching another episode of Grow Deep with Miss Erica. I always love hanging out with you guys. Remember, on Sunday we have God's Garden in Tysons and in Arlington, so I hope to see you there. Also, I wanted to tell you guys about a cool event we have coming up. On November 20th, we're going to have our first ever Exploring Jesus class. This is a class for kids, for you guys. We're going to be outside in Kyle and Elliot and Charlotte's backyard in our masks, so we'll be pretty safe. And we're going to be exploring, who is Jesus? This is a great class for kids who are still wondering if they're ready to make Jesus their king, or for kids who've made Jesus their king recently, but haven't gotten baptized yet. This is going to be a fun space where you can come and ask big questions about who Jesus is and why making him your king is a good idea and what that means. Anybody can come, regardless of whether you've made Jesus your king yet or not. We'd love to see you there. But we do need you to sign up. So tell your mom and dad if you want to come, and there's a way to sign up on our website. I would love to see you guys there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you can make it. All right, guys, it's been so fun hanging out with you. I can't wait to see you next week. Bye!
What do penguins wear to the beach?
Be quiet. We're trying to film.
What do penguins wear to the beach?
I don't know what.
Bikinis. What do penguins that are magicians say?
I don't know what.
Pick a cod, any cod.